Okay. I just started reading a fascinating book called Unsettled, an anthropology of the Jews, written by Melvin Connor, MD, PhD, an author, anthropologist, and atheist of Jewish extraction. He starts his introduction with the question, who are the Jews and why are they still here? I'm excited to follow him through his 438-page answer, but tonight my answer will be inspired by the reading that we just heard. So I want to take you through each fragment of the verse that I read for you, and I want us to figure out together, based simply on this one verse, what the answer to that question, who are the Jewish people and why are they still here? I want to see how far we can get with just this one line. So I'm going to need some help, okay? Gil, you look skeptical, but I'm telling you, we're going to go somewhere. Okay, so Lachen emor livnei Yisrael. So I'm going to translate it in a slightly different way than I did, which was the traditional way to translate it when I read from the Torah. So therefore, say to the children who wrestle with God, Ani Adonai, I am that which will be. I will bring you out from under the burden of Mitzrayim, the narrow place. I will deliver you from slavery, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and extraordinary judgments. Okay, so for those of you in Hebrew class, and those of you who have just been listening for the last couple of years, I want to ask you why I would translate Livnei Yisrael as the children who wrestle with God. I mean, we hear the word Yisrael. Well, you know. Does anyone else know other than the professor? Go ahead. Jacob. Okay, so more specifically.
So the meaning of the word is one who wrestles with God, because that's when he acquires the name, having wrestled with the angel at the foot of Jacob's ladder.
Right, and we're called the children of Israel, the children of Jacob. We could have been called the children of Abraham, we could have been called the children of Moses, but we're not. We're called the children of Israel. So, the translation, therefore, say to the children who wrestle with God, so this is a little trickier, but Ani Adonai. Okay, so what does Adonai usually mean?
The Lord.
The Lord, my Lord. Right, so there are different ways of spelling Adonai. This particular one is the, help me with this word, tetragrammatron.
Right. Yeah.
Woo, all right. The tetragrammatron is the 4-letter name of God in the Bible. It's the Hebrew letters Yud, He, Vav, He. And these are also the root letters of the verb to be. So when Moses sees God in the burning bush, God says, Asher Ehyeh, right? So I will be what I will be, right? That's not usually how it's translated.
I am
what I am is how it's usually translated, but it's actually in future tense. So I will be what I will be, and I kind of like it because it sounds like Ke Sarah Sarah, which I think makes sense for the divine. And actually, in my theology, that's the way it works. So therefore, say to the children who wrestle with God, I am that which will be. Okay, so just go with me. I will bring you out from under the burden of the narrow place. So Mitzrayim, right? Translates to mean the narrow place. So we can take something that's specific to this episode in Torah, and we can broaden it to talk about who we are as a people together. Then we move into, I will deliver you from slavery. Vehitzalti etchem me'avodatam. Okay, so if God, if a being is delivering us from slavery, then who are we? This is not a trick question.
The slaves.
We are the slaves. Okay, and there is something very persistent in the idea that we were slaves in Egypt. This is not the kind of thing that if you were in a casual conversation at a cocktail party and somebody said, who are you? Where are you from? You would not say, my father was a wandering Aramean, as we are instructed to say in the Haggadah, the prayer book of the Passover Seder. So the fact that we were slaves, perhaps we are slaves in some sense, is a very deep part of how we identify in the world. Okay, so we got three things going on. Then I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and extraordinary judgment. So this is a little trickier. I can't, I can't like pin this down exactly, but I'd like to hear from you. What do you think this line says about who we are as a people? God will redeem us, God's saying to us, I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and extraordinary judgments, or justice is another way that we could translate it, extraordinary justice. So what might this say about who we are? Any lawyers in the house? Go ahead, John.
Why even ask the question?
Well, you're going to actually ask to question the entire heart of my sermon? Is that what you're saying?
Why even ask the question who we are?
Oh, who we are. Okay.
I mean, beside the philosophical part of it, or social, political, or what have you.
Well, thank you for asking, because at this particular point in history, in this particular city, in this particular synagogue, there's a lot of struggle and strife and negativity and anger and pain. And I think when we're in the narrow place, it's helpful and can be inspiring to really cohese around our core values. So I ask, what does it mean to be a Jewish person in the world? And I equate that to saying, I belong here. We have a valid opinion to share on the world stage of thought. And there are things that make us distinct. There are things that, just reflect the humanity of every person. But how can we circle the wagons in a way that will help us feel strong and stable in an environment that is anything but? And I would postulate that our history and our text is the basis for which we could do this stabilizing in instability. I mean, it's basically the essence of what it means to be a Jewish person, or maybe to be a person in the world, is to hope for things to be able to move to a place, a promised land, where we're not currently standing. To be forever sort of looking down the tunnel of Mitzrayim and know that individually and together there is a power that makes for redemption. There is a power that can open us and welcome us in while pushing us through. And I think that's beautiful and unique and something worth being proud of.
Right, so we are the people who have been freed from slavery, who reach out towards justice.
Sure. Yeah. I wonder about the past tense though, I think if we look at it as we're all in this together with humanity, I like the idea of this sort of ongoing quest for the promised land. We're not the people who arrived in the promised land. You notice we don't read the book of Joshua, right? We don't read the book of Kings unless we're studying it. We don't read it on Shabbat. We don't read it on the holidays. We don't read the arriving part unless we're studying history. What we read is the slavery part, and is the searching part, and is the receiving and being open to moving forward to a possible future. So my hope for us is that we will be able to take some of that faith that sometimes seems so nebulous and ethereal and ephemeral, and understand how that wispiness can actually be forged into a people and into a way of being in the world. Shabbat shalom. Oh, Howard, you wanted to say something. That was my final Shabbat shalom. Howard, go ahead.
Why is it taking so long?
We're stiff-necked people. You know, honestly, Howard, my answer to that is it's very hard to be a person. And I think God, or the power that makes for salvation, or the divinity, is trying really hard to influence us towards the arc of justice bending towards justice. But we're very obstinate, just as humans. And I think it's really hard for us to see that working together is the future instead of picking little battles about things. Yeah, I'm going to end with the word things. Okay, Shabbat shalom.